Hello friends, this is Lee, the Cold War Prepper, and tonight I've got on my St. Benedict medal hat. So this is the medal that the priests use when they're doing an exorcism. I think it's a cool hat. But I wanted to go through a friend of mine, Uncle Al, and his channel is Die Bullfrog 79. So that's D-I-E, only one L, B-U-L-F-R-O-G 79. And please follow him and subscribe to him and see what he's doing. He's about ready to, he's had some health issues. He's about ready to stop doing this, but let's give him a big following before he stops. He came out with and reminded me, he did a fantastic video on critical books that a person needs to have just to succeed. So it reminded me, I had a list of books that I recommended on my Facebook channel, but Facebook threw me off just over a year ago. And I guess I was saying things they didn't like for me to say. So I have to redo that. So I figured, his reminder is a great reminder. I'm actually going to go through 3 sessions. So today I'm going to give you my favorite books in religion, politics, government, philosophy, economics, and international affairs, poetry and prose. Tomorrow I'll give you my favorite, just all-time fun to enjoy reading books that you want to have. They're just there for somebody to read after the apocalypse. And then the following day, I'm going to do 25 books on my favorite top 25 books on survivalism. So while we do that, I'm going to throw in 5 extra books throughout this so that you can understand. I'm going to start off with, in my opinion, the most valuable original bushcraft/survival book that there is, and that's this one. So this goes back to 1928, just fantastic book. There's a green version that updated it back in the 1950s, but the brown version is the original. It's the best. So let's get into the books that I strongly recommend. Number 1 is the Bible. So I'm going to go through, I've got 4 Bibles here. I'll show you. This is the Thompson Chain Reference Bible. This is the Protestant edition. It's got fantastic concordance. It has fantastic cross references. It has study notes about each one of the books, and it's just a phenomenal book. So if you're going to delve deep into the Bible, this is the Thompson Chain Reference is the place to go. Now, along with that, another Protestant Bible that I have is the Layman's Parallel New Testament. So this gives 4 different translations side by side. This is only the New Testament. So you got each one has side-by-side translation, so you can take a look at it, try to get a deeper understanding in English at least without going into the Aramaic or the Greek or the Hebrew from that time. My third one that I like a lot, this is my daily Bible. This is the one I read every single day, and you can tell. But this is the one I make all my notes in and everything. This is Father Larry Richards did a Catholic Men's Bible. And the nice thing about this is he has all these nice little daily studies off to the side. So what we can do to become a better man in our society, and it gives the biblical references to it and everything else. So just a phenomenal daily read to help you along with that. And then the other one is I belong to a book club, a Bible study that's here on YouTube, and I strongly recommend it. I'll put the link down below. And it's Father Mike Schwartz. And he got together with Ascension Press and a guy by the name of Jeff Cavins, PhD. And what they did was they studied when events in the Bible happened, and then they time-coded them so that each one of these tabs is a different time period, and they're color-coded by the time period. So what you're doing is you're not necessarily going through the Bible in the order of the books in the Bible. You're going through the Bible from the beginning timeline to the end, to Revelation. So it's actually put in historical, chronological order rather than just the book order. Just a fantastic Bible. I strongly recommend it. Whether you're Catholic or not, I strongly recommend this Bible study, and I'll put that link down below. Number 2 book that I strongly recommend under religion is The Diary of St. Faustina, and her name is actually St. Maria Faustina Kowalski. Joined the convent when she was 14. And as a matter of fact, now under Pope John Paul II, he's the one who beatified her, and because of her, we now have the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. And so the Divine Mercy Sunday is the Sunday after Easter. So we just celebrated that a week ago today. Just humility like you would not believe. Okay, number 3, I Am Saved. Now, where do I go from here? By Sandra Lott. So, is just professing with your mouth and being baptized all there is to it, or do you have to do more? Very good explanation of that. Number 4, Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls by John Bergsma. This guy is a fantastic biblical historian. If you see any of his books, read them. He just goes into proving the existence of Jesus. And in this one, he's talking about the Essenes, which is another sect of Judaism. And it appears, a lot of the evidence that's given is that John the Baptist was a member of this sect, the Essenes. And so just wonderful book. Certainly recommend it. Number 5, An Introduction to the Devout Life by St. Francis de Sales. Number 6, The Imitation of Christ by Thomas Kempis. Number 7, I don't know if you can get these. This was given to me in the Army by the chaplains, but this is the Wartime Prayer Book by Archbishop Fulton Sheen. Once again, I'm keeping the tab company in business, I can tell you that much. Number 8, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. And then number 9 is going to be another C.S. Lewis book, and it's The Four Loves, where he talks about the 4 Greek different forms of love. And then number 10 is A Saint for Every Day by Catholic Press. Now, I understand, not everybody's Catholic. So I also have, in place of it, this is my other one. This is a Protestant devotional. It's Our Daily Bread. And so just basically it gives you a scripture and a thought for every day of the year. So I can do a saint for every day of the year, and then I can do a Protestant devotional as well on a chapter or a verse in the Bible and a relevant thought around it. So that's my religious book. So it's time for one of those fantastic books. Where is it now? Oh, there it is. I'm certified to teach this one. Once again, I'm keeping the tab company in business. But this is Stephen R. Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the best interactive personal skills books that you're going to find on personal effectiveness and satisfaction and fulfillment. So that's surprise book number 2. Okay, politics, government, and philosophy. The U.S. Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, the Federalist Papers by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison. Common Sense by Thomas Paine, and then 2 books by W. Cleon Skousen. So the first one's going to be The 5,000-Year Leap, and that's a miracle that changed the world. This is about the U.S. Revolution, the Declaration of Independence, the Revolution, the establishment in 1785-86 of the Constitution, and how having a constitutional republic changed the entire world. And then right after that, his first book actually was The Naked Communist. So he was part of the FBI team that integrated or infiltrated Communist Party USA, and back in 1947, 1948, gave a report to Congress on the goals and everything of the Communist Party USA. There are 48 specific goals. I did those on my Facebook channel. I will redo them on YouTube and just give you the list of the 48 goals of the Communist Party USA, according to Cleon Skousen and The Naked Communist. Number 7, American Marxism by Mark Levin, along the same genre as Cleon Skousen's book. How are the communists taking over right underneath our own eyes? And then the short works of Voltaire. I would read anything by Voltaire. Most people don't realize it, but he was jailed a couple times. He was sent to the Bastille at least twice for disrespecting the kings and princes and nobles and everything else because of his philosophical statements. And so one of the times he was in exile, he went to Russia and he stayed with Piotr Veliki, or Peter the Great. And so he wrote a book about Peter the Great, but this is looking at the internal thoughts, conscience, and morality of the Tsar of Russia. Just a phenomenal book. So you get a totally different look at how Peter the Great thought and how he acted, and his sense of what his responsibility of being a Tsar for the entire Russian people. Then The Republic by Plato. And this is one of my favorites, is when Socrates is talking with, I think it's Circio, and they're talking about absolutes of right and wrong. And Socrates says, well, if you've borrowed a neighbor's sword and they want it back, do you have to give it back to them? He says, oh, yeah, you have to. It belongs to them. He says, what if they've gone crazy and they want to use the sword to commit suicide? Do you then have to return the sword? So it talks about relative absolutism and what's the gray area in between. So fantastic book, The Republic by Plato. And then the finest piece of writing that it was ever done, probably the shortest that I'm going to give in this entire 3-day writings thing, is you've got to have a copy of the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln. And he wrote that on a train on the back of an envelope. So, but it's still a significant piece of writing that you need to have available to you. Now, in Economics and International, a shorter list, but before we get into that, some things you're going to need just to survive. The post-apocalyptic world, Charles Gorin's Contract Bridge for Beginners. You're probably going to want to play a couple card games. There is nothing more fun, more challenging than a good game of Contract Bridge. So, Economics and International, The Changing World Order, Why Nations Succeed and Fail by Ray Dalio. Fantastic book. He talks about the decline of the U.S. dollar as the world currency and the rise of the Chinese yuan. So we're going into the fourth evolution or fourth major world power. And then Cold Times, number 2, Cold Times, Preparing for the Mini Ice Age by Dr. Anita Bailey. Number 3, Political Warfare, Strategies for Combating China's Plan to Win Without Fighting by Perry Gershonek and the Marine Corps Press. And then, of course, the epitome of political thought, economics, international, everything else has got to be Ayn Rand with Atlas Shrugged. So that's the 4 mandatory books I think of in Economics and International. If you think of more, please add them down below. Now, the next book I'm going to recommend this is along with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. This is a paramount book for interpersonal relations, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. You can see I read this book before they invented tabs. Turned that mini on it. Okay. So now let's get into the final 4, which is going to be poetry and prose. And so when I was in the 8th grade and graduated from 8th grade, and I lost the original book, I had to buy a replacement. Father Vonderhaar was our rector at the church. I went to elementary and middle school at Blessed Sacrament in El Paso, Texas. And so Father Vonderhaar gave me a copy of 101 Famous Poems. And love this book. And once again, you can see I've been reading it after the invention of tabs. I've done a couple readings from this in my playlist down below. You'll see them. I'm going to do a couple more. Just fantastic poetry. We've got to have poetry in our lives. That's essential. Another one along that same venue is going to be a treasury of the world's best loved poems. Number 3, William Shakespeare. You've got to have something of his. And if you can only have one, get Hamlet. But that's my favorite. King Richard. There's so many good ones by Shakespeare, but anything by Shakespeare, but start off with Hamlet. Number 4 is going to be actually 3 books, but it's Dante's Divine Comedy. So it starts off with the Inferno, Purgatorio, and then Paradiso. So basically hell, purgatory, and paradise, or heaven. And so those are his 3 books. But of course, Dante's Inferno is the most famous of the 3. But I recommend you read all 3 of them. And so then the last one is another Charles Gorin book on point count bidding for Contract Bridge. So those are the 5 additionals I'm going to give you. If you have extra books that you would like to recommend down below, remember tomorrow it's going to be my 25-ish favorite all-time books just to have in your library, fun to read, and just my favorite books. So this is Lee, the Cold War Prepper, wishing that you stay safe. Remember, we're all in this together so we can come out of it together. Take care. Bye-bye.